I'm not sure what it says in terms of the confidence in Vingegaard, though.
For the first time, you saw that he might be isolated, and Visma have got numbers.
A stage of the Tour is a stage of the Tour, and any team has to go for that. But what's occurring?
What's occurring? Brought to you by Continental Tyres, the main partner of the Tour de France. Right, Luke, it is Bastille Day, and we expect fireworks on Bastille Day because it is of huge importance to the French nation. And at the Tour, we had one of those stages where it was really, really hard to take your eyes off it because stuff was happening all the time.
Yeah, mate, it was fireworks. It was, one way of explaining it. I think there was inevitably going to be a big fight for the breakaway. It went quicker than I imagined. It went relatively quick in terms of how long it took to go. But I think that was because everyone who wanted to be in it essentially got in it. And sometimes it can take 100k for that right, group and that formation of riders to develop, or sometimes by luck, chance, or anything else, it can just happen quite quickly. So I don't know the exact distance, 15, 20k. 20 minutes of racing, the break was gone, 29 riders, and slowly but surely whittled down to the grand finale. But it was, there was some strange racing in the peloton, which we'll get into. The breakaway, obviously, it was two fights in one. We had the fight for the yellow jersey and the fight for the stage win. So Bastille Day did not disappoint.
Should we do some headlines for people who may be catching up with the stage and maybe not seeing the coverage live as we did? So, two big headlines really. Simon Yates winning the stage. He has had a rather special couple of months. And then Ben Healy, who was part of that break, coming home with sufficient time gap over the rest of the big hitters to move into yellow on a bit of an epic day. Should we start with Simon Yates? That finish climb was pretty much built for him, wasn't it, in terms of the abilities of the riders in that whittled down lead group. But he is having a real renaissance this year, isn't he? Like, his Giro was spectacular. It's really strange to think that this is his first stage win at a Grand Tour for donkey's years, for like 3 or 4 years, which is nuts for a rider of his abilities. Maybe reflects what his job has been in the teams he's at, but a big day for Yatesy, ever so slightly senior.
Yeah, he's the silent assassin, isn't he, them Yates boys? I don't know why or how they're allowed to go under the radar, but, he's in that
too good,
breakaway.
Aren't they? They're too good to go under the radar,
so
but they
good.
do.
They're never dark horses. They're always like, I'm going to boost my tyres up here, but as soon as that break formed with 29 riders, I thought, Yates is the favourite here. And it whittled down, and he just ducked and dived. Every time I went to the back, he was sat there chilling, and it's like, it comes down to the final climb, only one guy's winning this. Healy, I think, could have maybe beaten him if he didn't have to do a time trial for the yellow jersey. But yeah, he just ducked and dived, done the right thing, followed. As soon as there was a split, he was present. And that's what these Yateses are great at. They're, as GC riders, they're often found sitting at the back, and people criticise them sitting at the back. But whenever there's a split, they're in it. If they're sat at the back and suddenly there's a split in the crosswinds, and you look at the footage, or when I was racing, they're there. And he did exactly that. They're smart bike riders. We always talk about them as them, but we're talking about Simon, aren't we, of course? And he just nailed it. And I think, something to get onto later, Continental Chapeau of the day, but he's certainly going to be thereabouts, isn't he?
I think he is, yeah. You're right, there's that thing about the Yates, which if you watch a lot of road racing, you're used to, and if you maybe dipping out with something which looks slightly strange, which is the hanging off the back of the bunch, which we're used to seeing as a signal that someone might be struggling. Both of them do it. You're right, they're separate entities. Both of them do it. They also both climb with that beautiful ease, don't they? Like his 2 accelerations on the final climb today clearly weren't easy at the end of a really hard stage where there was sort of 4,500 metres of climbing dotted around through the massive Centrale, but he made it look as easy as you could make it look at that stage.
The only thing as well I would take from that, I think they had, they had 2 guys in the breakaway. They had Campenaerts and Yatesy. Campenaerts purely there to be of assistance for the guys in the peloton at a later date. And Yatesy, as it turned out, was clearly there to win the stage. Or, if the right scenario arose, to help them drop back to behind. But I'm not sure what it says in terms of the confidence in Vingegaard, though. I mean, a stage of the Tour is a stage of the Tour, and any team has to go for that. But I'm just a firm believer of all for one. When you have a guy who's that good, do you go chasing stages? And it's obviously come from the team. It's come from above. It's not that Yatesy just said, right, I'm going to go for the stage. It's obviously a clear plan, goal. And to be honest, it probably come from people a lot smarter than me. So who am I to criticize? But for me, it's like, if you've got a guy who's won 2 Tour de France's, he's looking brilliant. I just have Yatesy there with him. Maybe Campenarts or someone like that can go up the road as a guy who wouldn't pass the climbs as well and is there later. But Yatesy, I don't know. The bigger picture, to be there, he's probably the best climber they got after Jorgensen. Maybe Kuss, better than Kuss. And he went up the road all out to win a stage.
Is the timing of today's stage important in that it is the last stage before the rest day? Does that help them in that regard?
I mean, maybe they can go into tomorrow, enjoy their rest day, little spin and have a coffee and go, right, they've already done what most of the other teams would consider a successful Tour de France in winning one stage. So they've already got that in the bag. I mean, you can't knock them. It turned out well. They still had the numbers behind. But it was a bit evident to see, wasn't it, that UAE didn't have the numbers.
Well, that's what I'm wondering. I'm wondering if there's another way of looking at this, which is that Visma, rather than wasting Simon Yates, feels so confident in the strength of their team at the moment, particularly compared to UAE. Now, Pogacar still looks like the strongest rider in the race, and he was happy to give away a yellow today, but certainly there were points where he was isolated. Now, this is isolated by Pogacar standards in that he was still able to attack and still look super comfortable. But because João Almeida is out of the race and Pavel Sivakov had a tough day, didn't he? Dropped back today. For the first time, you saw that he might be isolated, and Visma have got numbers and they've got super domestiques in form. So I wonder if actually that decision to let Simon Yates go was more about the confidence of Visma rather than a sort of lack of confidence in Jonas Vingegaard. It was, we've got so many cars to play here compared to UAE that we can afford to let him have a crack at the stage.
Yeah, Simon Yates can go up the road and we'll still outgun them. I guess that's one way of looking at it. But just the only thing I wouldn't agree with there is that UAE and Poggy wanted to give the jersey away. I think they wanted to keep it because otherwise they started riding directly straight away. And Pollitt, with the help of Soler, kept it pinned at 2 minutes, 2:30 for quite a long time. Then when EF realised, right, this is really game on, and Harry Sweeney, hell of a ride. He started really turning the taps, and him and Alex Bourdin really committed. And that's when the gap went out. I think it went out and they lost the jersey, not through choice. At a certain point, they went, we can't keep this without really just battering through our whole team. And at that point, they made a conscious decision. All right, let's let it go out. Let's relax a bit. But if from the get-go they said, we don't want the jersey, give it 10 minutes, give it 12 minutes. You know, I've been in positions where you give it 15 minutes. But the fact they rode so hard for so long and pinned it at 2 minutes, to me, just says they wanted to keep the yellow jersey.
Yeah, and it would certainly be in character with the way that Pogacar rides, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
This is not a man who likes giving away the yellow jersey. Let's talk about Ben Healy, because you might have thought that Ben Healy had already had the high point of his tour after his stage win the other day. But he's gone into yellow in a very Ben Healy way, and obviously he wasn't getting much help from the rest of the shrunk down break towards the end, because everyone knew that he had to sit on the front because he needed those 3.5 minutes to go into yellow. He's a sort of rider who doesn't mind a slog. He's a sort of rider who doesn't mind putting his nose into the wind and digging in. He fully deserved to go into yellow today, didn't he?
Do you know why? I've got a lot of time for him. The way he rides, tenacious, that pit bull mentality. You see him and he's just battling a lot of the time against himself, you know, just nailing himself against brick wall. He's just, I like that tenacity in him. And yeah, I think that, you know, EF rode fantastic. And they originally had 4 guys in that group of 29. They had the highest, they had the numerical advantage. Quickly went to 3. Alex Bourdin and, like we said, Harry Sweeney did incredible. They really set him up there. But yeah, it just became that tipping point where it just went, right, forget the stage. I'm riding a time trial here. And they rode a team time trial and then an individual time trial. And then he didn't even go bang on the last climb. You know, he paced himself well. And this is just one of them beautiful moments in cycling where, you know, you're 10 days in and you got I'm not going to say an underdog, but in terms of GC, he's not going to go on to do podium or top 5 in the Tour de France. And he's in the yellow jersey. And I think it's been interesting with this yellow jersey. It's like a game of it's like a game of tennis, isn't it? It's going back and forth with Van der Poel nicking it the other day by 1 second, Poggy taking it back. It's just been it's been quite uncharacteristic where the yellow jersey keeps pinging around like a game of tennis. But I loved it today. I think credit to him. That footage of him stopped at the finish line, watching the clock ticking by. Yeah. Brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I think there's also something about EF Education as well, because they're not one of the teams with the bigger budgets. They have managed to punch above their weight pretty successfully in the last 5-6 years. This is a big old day for them, isn't it? Like, we're used to the super teams now dominating at the Tour, particularly in the last 4 or 5 years. And we're used to the likes of Pogacar shutting down breaks and just getting a stranglehold on almost every aspect of the race. So I think there's something quite pleasing, isn't there, about seeing a team like EF having their moment in the sun.
Well, we say Ben Healy, we said he's not exactly an underdog. Let's be honest, in the world of professional cycling, most teams are underdogs because the very few gobble up everything. I think of the first 9 stages prior to today, 5 stages have won the 9. And the remaining 17 have got nothing, relatively speaking. So, there's a lot of underdog teams. The one I'm in, Decathlon AG2R Le Mondial, is an underdog team. EF is an underdog team. To go up against these big dogs is tough. And everyone loves an underdog win. And that's what we've seen today. And also, it wasn't through any luck or chance. It was just, they had a plan. They got up there with numbers, 100% committed, strong boys, put their balls on the line, and Ben finished it off. I think it was the 4th ever Irish person to ever wear the yellow jersey. If we want to call him Irish, when you speak to him, he definitely does not sound Irish. But we're not going to get too political.
He is Irish, and he identifies as Irish, and he has Irish heritage, and he rides with the Irish tricolour on his jersey. So,
but when you speak to him, he doesn't say, "Good morning, Luke. How are you?"
No, he doesn't.
Irish accent. He doesn't say "top of the morning." He's got a Brummie accent.
He sounds like a man from Stavridge, doesn't he? But it's
another Matt Bramia.
Yeah, well, yeah, and maybe a Dan Martin. But look, nationality is a complicated thing, particularly, Ireland is a great diaspora nation. I've got a little bit of Irish heritage in me. Many people have, that's the way it is for Irish people. The other thing
very politically correct. I like that, Tom.
Can you tell he used to work at the BBC?
To keep us out of trouble.
The other thing about EF, I think, as well, is these sort of wins are massive for these sorts of teams, aren't they? Because it is a battle to get sponsors. It's a battle to make ends meet, and sometimes it's a battle at the end of every season. You go into yellow at the biggest bike race in the world. That is a game changer for your finances. Yep. That's a game changer for you for the next couple of seasons.
Yeah, I mean, there's many cycling teams with very short deals with their headline sponsors, with smaller sponsors, and like we said before, Tour de France is a shop window. The whole sport revolves around this. And you've now got your team, which is an underdog team, probably roughly a third of the big boys' budget. And this is your shop window. And they are front and centre. Yellow jersey through a whole team performance. And now, Jonathan Vaughters, I'm sure he's going shopping right now. And good on him. And that's... EF, in fairness to them, they get the most out of most races they do. They're one of the teams who doesn't really follow a rule book of how a race goes. They're not afraid to fail. I think they got some great DSs there. Clear, Tom Southam, Charlie Wigalius, they're good boys. They know what they're doing. I've seen them, how they work up close and personal. Never in the same team as them, but, been around the game a little while, and you see the way they're working, and they're not afraid to think outside the box. And if this is the way traditionally that a race goes, any given race, they go, well, fuck that. We don't want to do it that way. We'll do it this way. And that's exactly what we've seen today. Rip up the rule book. We'll take it by the balls and we'll see what happens. And most of the time doing that, you fail. But sometimes it all falls into place and something beautiful happens, like it did today.
Disruptors, Luke. That's what they would identify as.
I like it. I love it.
Yeah. It's good, isn't it?
Don't follow the crowd. Don't be a sheep.
Yeah.
Just send it and see what happens. That's what they did. Well done, boys.
Right, Luke, it is time for a double Continental Tyres Chapeau of the day. We need to do one first of all for stage 9. So, what's our thinking? Crazy joint attack for Mathieu van der Poel and his teammate Jonas Rickaerts. There's some really nice context on this, which you may have seen between Van der Poel and his teammate Freddie Ovett, son of a very famous middle distance runner for those of us of a slightly older vintage. What were your thoughts on this insane but beautiful break that we saw?
Well, stage 9 and stage 10, we got 2 Chapeau of the days to come up with, and I think it's going to be a very short discussion. It was not like a few days ago when me and G were almost shedding tears over it. It's a bit bizarre, but it almost came off. You know, these wild and wacky moves, sometimes they work. And to give a bit of context here, for the listeners who aren't in the loop, is that it was planned. You know, Jonas Rickaerts said, one of my career goals is to be on the podium of the Tour de France, something that Van der Poel has done many a times, but his teammate Jonas has never done. And perhaps without the help of Mathieu van der Poel, he never would. Who knows? So their plan was to go on a 2-up breakaway, try and win the stage for sure, but that way Jonas would get most combative rider of the day and be on the Tour de France podium. That was their battle plan, and that's what they did. It's worth saying, I don't think you'd be allowed to do this in many teams. And when I say allowed, if you went to the DS and said, we want to go 2-up breakaway on a flat stage, Van der Poel's had some really hard days, and he's going to, go balls to the wall again and maybe have a detrimental effect on the days to come, which on a flat sprint day is usually going to be a sprint. They'd probably say no. But obviously, Van der Poel's part owner of the team, so they can't really say no, can they?
Makes it easy, doesn't it? When the joint owner makes a decision.
Yeah, I'm going in the break. We don't think it's a very good idea. I'm going in the break.
Right, you are. Off you go.
Yeah, right, off you go. Crack on, mate. But it was similar to what we were talking about EF, where rip at the rule book, send it, and to have Jonas Rickaerts, I know him a little bit. Spoke to him a couple of times. Good lad, and he accomplished that goal on the podium, Tour de France. What's not to love?
Okay, so that makes it nice and easy. Our Continental Tyres Chapeau of the day for stage 9, Luke, is
Jonas Rickaerts.
Okay, right. Let's move to Mondays.
But also credit to Van der Poel.
Yeah, I think he gets half a chapeau, doesn't he? He gets a chap or an O. He can decide he's part of the team.
Well, for a guy to give back like that to his team, if you're the leader and you give back to your team, next time you're leader, they're going to just give more and more. And Jonas Rickaerts, his lead outs are invaluable. His commitment towards the team is invaluable. And I always think any opportunity a leader gets to give one to his team, give it, because you'll just get it back time and time again. And Van der Poel, okay, he was the guy who went solo for the last 6K, but he did that purely for Jonas. To try and win the stage, but you always knew that was going to be, that's 100 to 1, that. So he deserves a shot of the day.
Nice. Okay. Right. Chapeau part 2. So Monday's Bastille stage. I'm going to throw some names at you just to make it look like we've had a real debate about this before we settle on the person who we're always going to settle on. Simon Yates won the stage, possible contender. Matteo Jorgensen rode brilliantly in support of his team leader. Tymon Aronson got second on the stage, which was a little ray of sunshine for Geraint's team. Blah-de-blah-de-blah. It's got to be Ben Healy, hasn't it?
It has. I think you named some great contenders there. Jorgensen playing that team role. It was clear what they wanted to do. That's why Campenaerts was up the road. They were just praying that, they were putting Sepp Kuss there, hoping that Jorgensen could get to Sepp, who could get to Campenaerts, but, they were never allowed off the leash, but keep knocking at the door, it could come off. So nice aggressive racing, rated it. Of course, Yatesy, what can you say? He rode the stage brilliantly, like we've spoken about, took the opportunity, got stage of the Tour de France in his pocket. But the winner of the Continental Chapeau of the day is
Ben Healy. And in case I thought I was going to get more of a drum roll. In case anyone has been puzzling, Luke, since you mentioned that he is the 4th Irishman to wear the yellow jersey at the Tour, and they're thinking of the other names. I'm sure a lot of people got Stephen Roche, who obviously won the overall in 1987. I'm sure a lot of people also got Sean Kelly. Did you all get Shea Elliott? If you did, massive chapeau to you as well.
I did not. I got Kelly and Roach, they're the obvious two. I was struggling. I was thinking, well, Nico Roach never got it. Sam Bennett never got it. Dan Martin, I was thinking, but I thought, no.
Stage winner, of course, but yeah.
Yeah.
Decent quiz
Stage
question.
winner, Mur de Bretagne, yeah.
That's right, in 2018. Right, let us have a little look back now, because it is the first rest day of the Tour on Tuesday. So let's finish off today's pod by just doing a who is feeling happiest on this rest day. So you know, you can tell us, Luke, what happens on a rest day, that nice little hour and a half pedal, a coffee, a massage, a chance to get some washing done, all that sort of stuff, catch up with some phone calls back home. Who is lying on their bed in their hotel room after all that, feeling happiest of the big dogs in the GC?
Well, the happiest man in the world is going to be Ben Healy. He's going to be like a dog with two dicks, isn't he? He's going to be a happy boy. And so he should. I mean, if we go away from the GC guys briefly, I think from the two, there's only really two sprinters who have been that successful: Milan and Merlier. Merlier's got 2, Milan's got 1, but he's got the points jersey. After that, there has been a drop off. You know, Binny hasn't quite been at their level. Jasper Philipsen's obviously crashed out, so them two obviously. From the GC guys, I think I'm saying Ponus now. I'm mixing Poggy and Jonas.
What's a rider Ponus is?
Yeah,
Ponus is pretty much unbeatable.
Yeah, imagine them two. Imagine them two on a tandem. Yeah, Poggy and Jonas. I think they can both take a lot of positives. Like, let's not forget these 10 days have not been Jonas Vingegaard territory. They've been okay, today was a bit longer climbs, but I think both of them knew that it wasn't going to be the big day for GC. So I think Jonas is going to be pretty content, you know, where he is. He's just over a minute down. Post, you know, most of that was in that time trial where he dropped the bollock, didn't he? I don't know what happened there. Poggy, you know, he's happy. He's got a lead. He'll take it. Who's going to be disappointed? Red Bull. Red Bull are going to be disappointed, haven't they? I think Ineos will be a little bit disappointed. I think Decathlon AG2R, I think we'll take it. Coming into the mountains is Felix Gall territory. You know, it was obviously a big fear factor how much time he could lose in the crosswinds, could lose in the time trial. He's limited that. When I say limited it's almost 5 minutes, but, you know, that top 10, 8, 6 is still up for grabs. Who do you think? Who have I missed?
Well, the thing that I would like to briefly discuss when we're talking about Poggy and Jonas is just the respective strength and form of their teams. So I think most of us would probably have Pogacar as still the slight favourite to win yellow by the time we get to Paris in just under 2 weeks' time. But that loss of João Almeida, Pavel Sivakov may be fine come Wednesday's next stage, but he was struggling today. That is the thing. I think that if I were Visma, if I were Jonas, I'd be looking at and thinking, yeah, okay, so I did lose some time in the time trial, but it wasn't catastrophic. And I'd be thinking, I think we've probably put some stress on Poggy on quite a few days. Okay, he's been fine with it, but you know what stress is like at a Grand Tour. It's a cumulative thing. So there's just that little thing playing on my mind. I had a conversation with someone yesterday at one of my lads' cricket matches, and he was like, Pogacar's going to win this, isn't he? And I was like, well, it's a long way to go. Things happen in Grand Tours. Especially the last couple of days in the mountains. So I think this is still a beautifully poised race at this point.
Another happy boy, Oscar Onley.
Oh,
he's got to be on his bed thinking, I'm good at this.
Oh,
I'm pretty good at I'm pretty good at this Tour de France stuff because what is he, 6th in GC, but he just doesn't look. He looks the best of the rest, really. If we're honest, you know, of the Ponus duo, he's right there behind him, isn't he?
He is.
So he's going to be a happy boy sat on his bed. If you were to say, who's going to be on the podium. He's right there in the fight. He's right there in the fight for a podium, which, I know how good he is, but I didn't realise he was...
Pretty nuts, isn't it?
Tour de France fighting for a podium level, and he really is.
Here's another
if one
reason.
of them has a bad day, he's there.
Here's another reason why he might be smiling. Apparently, according to Test Match Special on the BBC, Oscar Onley dropped back to his team car early in the stage today to catch up with the score in the England-India Test match from Lords. So, the fact that England won that at the very death, as the riders, pretty much as Ponas were coming through the finish line, as Oscar was coming through the finish line, that England won that test, may put another couple of wrinkles on his face as he smiles more broadly than he's ever smiled before.
One other thing, is Ponas did come through the finish line. So they picked up the wheel of Lenny Martinez, who was in the breakaway, with about 500 metres to go. And Lenny Martinez kept riding. Obviously, he didn't want to get caught, but from the group behind, top 10 on the stage was still up for grabs. I don't know if KOM points were, but they sat on him from 500 metres to go to the finish line. And I thought one of them was going to sprint at the end. Neither Jonas or Poggi went past him at the finish line, gave him that 8th place. Whether there's points up for grabs, I'm not sure, but they gave him that 8th place. I thought it was something that, maybe slipped under the radar, and they crossed the line, and Martinez just looked across and gave it the thank you. If them two sprinted and got 8th and 9th and Martinez 10th, it doesn't change anything for Jonas or Poggi. But it's just little things like that are, sometimes, like we've had a conversation, be ruthless and take everything you can, but an 8th or 9th changes nothing. Whereas a guy riding for another relatively underdog team, being the breakaway all day, at least he gets a 8th instead of a 10th or 11th out of it. So nice little touch by Ponas.
So fundamentally, we're saying that there was no bonus for Ponas today.
No bonus is left for bonus. No bonus is left for Ponas.
Right, Luke, you go and rest on your rest day. I'll rest on my rest day. We'll be podding again soon. See you soon.
Crack in. See you later, bud. Ta-ra.